Again for joining us. Our top story this half hour. The Hawks arrested at least 5 bogus doctors during a raid at Lister Medical Centre in the Johannesburg CBD. The suspects are facing charges of fraud, a contravention of the Medicines Control Act and corruption. The suspects were allegedly using a local doctor's practice number to conduct fraudulent business. Police confiscated medicines, patients' files and certificates bearing the name of Dr. William Mokhaile. It emerged that Dr. Mokhaile was arrested in August and released on bail. A warrant for his arrest has been issued and the suspects will be appearing in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court on Monday.
This is a multidisciplinary operation investigation led by the Hawks and RTMC as well as the HPCSA and other law enforcement agencies in the province. It was very alarming when RTMC approached us early this year about 32,000 applications which were signed by the same doctor who actually was permitting the drivers, PDP rather, the public drivers permit for them to be driving the goods vehicles or trucks as well as taxis and buses on our roads.
Now here's part of our own ongoing investigation, part of Operation Recall. That investigation is looking at the bogus doctors who are issuing medical certificates to people who are applying for public driver's permits. So here with the Health Professions Council, the Hawks, the Medical Control Council, Gauteng Traffic Police Compliance Unit. Now, so far, we've identified some doctors, and we've also have a suspect that we think is the person who ran away from us in the Val about 3 weeks ago, who has been found here. So far, we have about 3 suspects that we've found.
The Health Professions Council says over 40 bogus doctors have been arrested in the country since January this year. The HPCSA has been investigating nearly 500 cases over the past year. HPCSA says the problem has been under-policed, and the council says the community members have a role to play in ensuring bogus doctors are arrested.
When I came back, I give them the card. They was like, they don't find my file.
Doctor ikitsamagang ho yona e ka mo abutella titirana jwale jwanong o na sebeletsa ka mona ka 2014 jana ha ke fihla mona ke thola hayo ba ausi ke ba jwetsa ke re kina le file ha ba tshore a doctor o ko mo ha se doctor o no o una e kina le card ya hae mo hona
anna ne tlo etsa certificate sa medical. Yeah, but director ka mo ba re ketle mo ya ka tla ba re ke 350 ka ba fa chelete ba re ke kena ka mona.
A number of bogus doctors were arrested at the Lister Medical Centre for operating under local registered doctors. Patients' files and medicine have since been confiscated from the centre. Miponi Ramotole, ANN7, Johannesburg.
And joining us in studio is Dr. Norman Mabasa, who is with the National Convention on Dispensary as their chairperson, is also with the Health Committee South Africa for the Medical and Dental Practitioners Association. The lines are open, as we mentioned. You can call in on 011-542-2186. Dr. Sizeka Mawea is a family physician and also with the South African Medical Association in Limpopo. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Let's just give us a sense of how extensive this practice is. We just mentioned 40 doctors that are under investigation, and there were 5 arrests being made. But across the country, do you have a sense of how many of these conmen we have impersonating doctors?
Well, it is quite common. It is very common. You can count it in hundreds and thousands if you like. Don't forget that to be a bogus doctor, you simply have to put DR behind your name, and anybody can do that. And if you think about it, people have impersonated police, have impersonated teachers, have impersonated doctors. But the worry for us is when people go into a hospital ward and pretend to be doctors just because they've put on a white coat, or they go to open a practice and start siphoning money from the public and pretend to be doctors just because they have written their name doctor behind their names. But maybe let me give you a bit of classification. What is a bogus doctor? You've got various types of bogus doctors. You've got bogus doctors who are people who have never seen a medical school at all. And these may not even have done matric at all. You have a bogus doctor in the sense that the person arrives with some little bit of training for 3 to 4 years and drop out of medical school and then continue to call himself doctor. You may also have a bogus doctor because this person comes from outside the country and has qualified or not qualified elsewhere, and this person then doesn't register with the Health Professions Council of South Africa, and that person remains a bogus doctor. Unfortunately, it's so rife because there's business around there. You can sell medical certificates, they can do botched abortions, they can even examine whilst they're doing nothing. I mean, you will remember many years ago, there was somebody who was a pseudo-pediatrician in Kempton Park and has worked for more than 6 years without being known not to be a doctor. Each time he saw a child, he referred to a specialist. So he survived that way, having taken the money from the people who were vulnerable.
My goodness, it really is quite an audacious act. We're joined by Dr. Kgosi Letlape, the President of the Health Profession Council of South Africa, and Dr. Sizeka Maweya, family physician with the South African Medical Association. Dr. Letlape, thanks so much for joining us. It's really quite concerning in that we have these conman or bogus doctors taking advantage of the, be it ignorance or vulnerability of some patients. But how is it that it still prevails, even though, you know, they're clearly not qualified to?
Because, you know, in a nation where the ethics are quite low, anybody will take a chance to criminality and making a buck. And that's possibly part of the symptom of the society that we have become. And the challenge is that our legislative framework is such that we only have jurisdiction over people that register with us. So when you are a bogus doctor, we don't have jurisdiction over you.
It
but
seems
this
like
is so
under the radar.
that council has established. Yes, they operate under the radar, but we could also improve the regulatory mechanisms that we have. Part of the problem is that even for doctors, when you register with us, you get a practicing number from BHF, and you can practice from anywhere. So we now need to begin to set minimum standards, and people need to give us a location of where they are practicing that would be inspected and certified. You'd then be licensed to practice within where you've been accredited to practice, where you have a facility that has been inspected. That way we will begin to stamp out bogus doctors. We also have, because of money concerns, we have legitimate doctors that expand their practices by having multiple practices and putting people that are not qualified to run their practices. So on paper, they'll be using the paper profile of their employer, who's a legitimate registered doctor. An inspection has just been done today, where in one building in town, the Lister building, 10 bogus doctors were arrested today. Some of them claim to be working for a properly registered doctor who is out on bail now because he's been nabbed through another bogus doctor practice that was raided a few weeks ago. So the problems are vast, and the only advice that I can have for society is that unless you have checked your doctor, whether the doctor is registered with cancer, treat them as a bogus doctor until proven otherwise. So you cannot tell who's bogus, who's not bogus. Society must verify any practitioner. Even if you have a doctor that you've been seeing for 10 years, he may have been bogus for 10 years. So we need society to be vigilant and to take steps of just going into our website with either the ID, the name, the address of the practitioner, and you'll be able to see whether that person appears on the register or not.
Dr. Letlape, just please stay on the line with us. We've have Dr. Sizega Mawia, family physician with the South African Medical Association. Dr. Mawia, thank you so much for your time. Just when we live in a world of counterfeits, be it that you want to get a certificate online or you have assistance from, rogue personnel somewhere in an official department, how then can you distinguish as a patient? Need you ask for verification and how do you check their practice numbers?
Thanks very much for giving me this opportunity, and then thanks to the two colleagues, my esteemed mentors. What usually happens is that when a person has got a sick certificate, which he has to actually present to the employer, as summer, there is a letterhead, things which are supposed to appear on top of your sick certificate. One of the things will be the qualifications, and then the other thing will be your MP number, as Dr. Letlape has put it. And then there will also be, your qualifications will also say, where did you qualify, and the address where you are practicing. And then as such, in most cases, most of the people will also put a practice number, which is actually allocated to you by the BHF, which is the funding for I call them the paymaster for the private doctors. So all those things must appear in that sick note. And it's up to the employer to check, is this authentic or not? Because you can actually even verify it with those bodies that I've mentioned. But at the end, I would like to come back to the issue of Dr. Letlape when he actually talks about a private doctor as an employer. So at the end, we also have to regulate those people, because how do they vet the people that they employ who later become bogus? Because with government, you are vetted very thoroughly, even though you also escape that vetting, like what Dr. Mawasa has put it, those who have dropped out from medical school. It actually happened in Limpopo that we had one who actually presented as such, as bogus.
Dr. Mawia, you're losing your line is not very clear towards the end there, but coming back to you, Dr. Mabasa, in the desperation for some people, would you say it would be ignorance, being gullible, or is it just the lack of a regulatory framework?
It takes two to tango. There are two aspects of it. The regulatory framework can be there, but a thief doesn't announce his arrival. When I say it takes two to tango, the public also wants certificates, and they may not get them from the doctors that are practicing and registered because maybe they are not legit. And they would appreciate anyone who can sell them a certificate and has printed that and call himself a doctor, and then they can stay away from work. So you will see that there's also cooperation sometimes from the public when they want to take an advantage. But you also have doctors who were legit and who were registered with the HPCSA, who now tend to become bogus doctors. This is a group that may have been convicted of one or other crime, or even found guilty of one or other offense, and they are scrapped off the roll by the Health Professions Council, and they continue practicing. The moment your certificate is taken away, you become bogus immediately, because you are no longer allowed by the HPCSA to practice. And those are very difficult to detect, because the patients would not know whether this person is still registered or not. They may have checked yesterday and found that the doctor was registered, but today the doctor was scrapped off the roll.
Yeah, how accessible is that registrar, and does it name and shame in terms of which doctors should not be operating, so that we can raise the alarm in case you encounter one of those?
It's easy, as Dr. Letlape will attest. You just go to the website of the HPCSA and write the numbers that appear, which is the so-called MP number, which is it's actually the number that the HPCSA keeps to register the doctors. And then you write the name as well. The search engine allows you to use either the name or the number itself. And as Dr. Mawia says, we did have such an instance where somebody was bogus in Limpopo. But we also had another one who walked the corridors of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital as a bogus doctor. So the public sector is not exempt from imposters. An imposter is a person who steals identity. And you can have whatever security, but it's as good as how many have you caught, but how many couldn't you catch?
And let's test the success of the police in their sting operations. Captain Debo Mulamo is with the Hawks as the provincial spokesperson. Thank you so much for your time, Captain Mulamo. Just give us a sense of how successful your raids have been, and is it more reliant on the number of people that call in or tip-offs? How do you manage to clamp down on these bogus doctors?
Good evening, Cindy, and good evening to your viewers, and thank you for inviting us. Cindy, you'll remember that this is an ongoing multidisciplinary operation by the Hawks and other law enforcement agencies, as well as the Department of Health. It so happened that during the month of July, RTMC brought an alarming information to our doorstep where about 32,000 applications were actually examined by one doctor from different surgeries around the province. Then that gave us an indication as to we really needed to put our foot down on this investigation. And we really also thank the community for bringing information as sensitive as this to our information, to our doorstep, so that we can also further our investigation as expected.
All right, please stay on the line, Captain Mulamo. We have a caller, anonymous, in Mpumalanga. Good evening to you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you? What's your question or comment?
Hello, how are you, Cindy?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. What's your comment or question?
No, I'm just saying that can you give us a number where we can report these cases? Can we have the number?
I would assume it would be your local police station, but we'll get Captain Mulamo if there's a specific hotline perhaps that you're using for these specific cases.
All right.
Thank you. Captain Mulamo, is there a specific hotline number that we can use to report these cases?
Yes, we do have. Our emergency number is 08600 10111. That number will actually locate you to wherever you need assistance in the country. At least there will be specific people who will be allocated such information so that they can come and attend to your query.
And besides just the fake sick notes, what else are these bogus doctors accused of, or what kind of charges are you investigating?
Cindy, it is really disturbing only to find out when you walk into the surgeries, you'll find pregnant women, you will find terrible ill patients, you will find people who are in need of medical attention, and only to find out that these people are going to be examined by people who are not even qualified to do such. Most of these doctors don't even know what they're talking about. Like, for instance, this afternoon, we had a lady who was suffering from diabetic. She is sure of her condition, but yet the doctor told her otherwise, and to them it is disturbing. I'll make an example with a sensitive matter here, more especially when it comes to pregnant women who need assistance when it comes to fertility treatment. They give wrong medication. There was a poor child who was bleeding terribly, crying out for help. The doctor said he did not recognize her. She did not consult with them. So we plead to the community that if you suspect any illegal activities going on at your local practices, please report it to your nearest police station so that it can get the necessary attention and investigation will be conducted thereof.
And how many cases are you currently investigating, if I may ask, Captain Mulamo?
At the moment, we have a pile on our desk that we're investigating. However, this afternoon, we have made a massive arrest when we arrested 8 suspects, and this is including 2 senior citizens who were unfortunately released on a warning, so because they are elderly and they are over the age of being a lawful suspect at the moment. And these suspects were practicing as radiologists. Unfortunately, they failed to pay their annually or their yearly HPCSA subscription fee, which is going to be unfortunately terminated.
All right, Captain Malamo, thank you so much for your time. And that's the Hawks provincial spokesperson joining us on the line. And we have Tembisile in Cape Town. Good evening to you.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good, ma'am. Ma'am, I just want to find out how much should the doctor charge you when you go to see him? Because some of them, they are charging 100 rand and the others, they're charging 400 rand. How much should they charge you if you want to see them at their practice?
All right, thank you so much, Tembisile. We'll give that to Dr. Letlape. Is there a regulated entry or amount for consultation, Dr. Letlape?
There's no regulation in terms of fixing a price for consultation. So every doctor is allowed to charge fees that are commensurate with their cost of providing that service. But it's up to them to determine it. And patients should also look around. Just like the caller says, some doctors charge 100, some charge 400. You need to ask, why are they charging that? You need to make an assessment of the quality of service that is being provided. Unfortunately, since the Competitions Commission has entered into this arena, we cannot even talk about fee guidelines of what the guide should be. It's been left totally up to the market. And people like the South African Medical Association and other interest groups are not allowed to be able to come together and create a guide to fees.
All right, Dr. Letlape, thanks for your time. That's Dr. Jose Letlape, Health Profession Council of South Africa President. We take a caller, Victor in Limpopo. Good evening to you.
Good evening, madam.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What's your question or comment, sir?
It's very interesting topic we're talking about here. When you talk about doctors, you know, we're not really talking about the overall doctors. We're probably talking about our African doctors.
Yes, Victor, we're listening.
And then those coming other side of the sea, I'll be slowly, okay?
All right. Victor, thanks. I think we get the gist of it in the sense of illegal migrants or immigrants and also who are practicing. Dr. Mawia, I'm not sure if in terms of the profile of these suspects or perpetrators of false medical practices, how many do we have any idea as to how many are operating that are even illegal in the country?
From the SAMA's point of view, we don't have the exact numbers because, like we said, most of our members are actually that doctors who are in good standing, who are actually part of, who have been registered with SPCSA. So in so doing, I cannot actually tell which doctors are out there who are bogus, who are actually practicing coming from outside South Africa. Like the caller has actually put it to say, it's like we're looking only at the African brothers. We are not looking at the other people who come from the other side of the sea. That from some, we only have members who are in good standing, and we usually tell them when to go and register, and we remind them all the time. We even collaborate with SPCSA to go to different provinces to register every time from the month of November.
All right, Dr. Mawea, thank you so much for your time, a family physician with the South African Medical Association. And Dr. Mabasa, very briefly, and how do we eradicate this particular problem? Because we know the nature of syndicate crime is that it will die down a little bit and then flare up again at another location.
Two things. One is that the number to call for the police you were given. But the other number that has not been given is that of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, which is where the public have recourse to go and find out whether somebody is registered before they phone the SAPS. Because you cannot identify somebody as bogus until you verify that they are not registered. So the absence of presence is that which encourages you then to phone the police. And lastly, on the question of numbers, you can never know because bogus doctors are not practicing in the open. They are always in hiding. So we only ask the communities to make sure that when they are suspicious of the expertise of the person handling their lives, they should be able to say, let me look at the numbers. Maybe an enforcement rule should be that every doctor must put the MP number very prominently in their practices at the reception to ensure that the public are clear. If it's not there, then it's not it.
All right, Dr. Mabasa, thanks indeed for your time. Just a very brief closing remarks, Dr. Litape.
I think we should be cautious and refrain from becoming xenophobic. We cannot talk about the fact that it looks like it's Africans. And from the Health Professions Council's point of view, is that the public should verify any doctor that they are seeing, irrespective of their ethnicity, irrespective of their experience, irrespective of how long you've seen them. So that every doctor should be seen as someone that needs to be verified. That's the only way we cannot stigmatize other people and we can eradicate this problem. So it should be the duty of every citizen, even the doctor that you know or think is locally qualified, that you've been seeing for 20 years, that could be of any ethnic origin. You owe it to yourself to just get onto the HPCSA's website, which is www.hpcsa.co.za. And once you're on the website, you go to the public domain and you will be guided, and you can just check any doctor whether they are registered and active.
All right, Dr. Litape, we're going to leave it there. That website address is HPCSA. That's www.hpcsa.co.za to verify your general practitioner or your family doctor's qualifications. We take a quick break and we'll see you shortly.